I'm Grace.
And I'm Sydney.
We missed you guys last week, but now that all the Austin ice has melted and we got a much-needed week off from school, we're excited to continue giving you guys all the latest in entertainment news.
We have a jam-packed episode tonight filled with a comparison of HBO Max's new show, The Last of Us, to the acclaimed video game of the same name, a flashback to last fall for our Women Talking AFF red carpet interview,
and a bracket of the best M. Night Shyamalan movies in light of the recent release of Knock at the Cabin, plus a recap of January 2023 movies in case Austin has another snowstorm and we're stuck inside watching movies all day.
Which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
I couldn't agree more. Stay tuned, you won't want to miss this. For our first official episode of the semester, I think we should start off with some amazing news in the form of Viola Davis becoming an EGOT.
You're absolutely right, Grace. Over the weekend, Davis won the Grammy for Best Audiobook, Narration, and Storytelling Recording for her memoir, Finding Me, earning her complete EGOT status and making her the third ever Black woman in history to get this achievement.
Davis previously won an Emmy for her work in How to Get Away with Murder, an Oscar for her performance in 2017's Fences alongside Denzel Washington, and 2 Tonys for the stage play of the same name, and King Hedley III.
Viola Davis has had such a fantastic career, and I cannot wait to see what she does next.
Neither can I, Sydney. In other news, AMC Theaters has announced that they are making some changes to their ticket pricing.
According to Variety, AMC will be changing their ticket prices to be based on seating locations, with seats costing a normal price, their front row and ADA seats becoming cheaper, and their middle row seats increasing in price.
So if you're an AMC moviegoer and you love catching all the action right in the middle of the theater, you better save up some cash.
There's been quite a bit of controversy surrounding this topic, but not as much as the absolute hate Netflix has received for their new password sharing policy, in which they stated that devices that do not connect to an account's home network at least once every month will be banned from said account.
Don't even get me started on that, Sydney. It was almost as if Netflix didn't even bother to consider college students or long-distance relationships or people who live away from their families. Luckily, they learned their lesson and revoked the policy, claiming it was posted as an error.
Yeah, right. Maybe AMC's policy was posted as an error, too.
We'll just have to wait and see. But for now, we've got an exciting show ahead of us, starting with a recap of January's new movies with Anna Kay.
Take it away, Anna Kay.
Hey sneak peekers, I'm AK. It's the dawn of a new year, and if you're looking for something to go check out in theaters that's not Avatar 2 for the 4th time, I'm here to help. January is a notoriously quiet month on the film front. Most years you can usually expect to find low-budget genre films that studios do not have high hopes for. Oftentimes this is because of intense holdovers from the holiday blockbusters, and studios don't want to release their big earners at a time when they still have to compete with these huge IP films. While this January saw similar conditions, with Avatar 2 topping the chart for 7 straight weeks since its release, this month saw much more quality films than usual. One of the biggest box office and cultural surprises was Megan, a horror comedy film about the titular advanced AI-powered doll who, of course, goes rogue and murders people. Written by Akilah Cooper, who also wrote the script for *Malignant*, Megan is a very funny slasher that satirizes tech-obsessed, negligent parents without being too heavy-handed. The film's early January release, accompanied by an elaborate ad campaign that garnered widespread social media buzz, which helped Megan become a box office hit, earning $30 million opening weekend, while surpassing industry predictions. With the movie's success, there's also a sequel in the works, which means, thank goodness, we have not seen the last of Megan. Another horror movie, Skinamarink, managed to get a successful theatrical release despite its indie beginnings. Made with a budget of $15,000 and a casting crew of 12 people, Skinamarink initially played at a few film festivals before going viral over social media. Off of the positive critical reception and word of mouth, Skinamarink was picked up for US and Canada distribution, going on to earn $2 million at the box office. Skinamarink is a slower, more experimental horror film than general audiences might appreciate, but the story of the film's success is one I find inspiring to any hopeful filmmakers, and goes to show that you don't need $1 million budget to get your movie on the big screen. Another box office success this past month comes with a familiar face, Tom Hanks, who starred in A Man Called Otto, a remake of the Swedish film A Man Called Ove, which itself was an adaptation of the successful Swedish book of the same name. Directed by Mark Forster, whose past films include Monsters Ball, Finding Neverland, and Christopher Robin, A Man Called Otto follows Hanks as the titular grumpy old widower, whose new neighbors help him find the meaning in the world again. Although critics were mixed positive on the film, audiences have really responded to it. And as the film received an A cinema score and has grossed 83 million worldwide, grossing more than its modest budget. And one last movie to mention is Saint Omer, a French legal drama that was actually released in 2022, but finally got a limited US release. This film made the rounds at a ton of film festivals, all 2022, and even won the Grand Jury Prize at the Venice Film Festival. The film follows Rama, a pregnant novelist who attends the trial for a mother, Lawrence Colley, who is accused of murdering her 15-month-old child. Rama, the novelist, is attending the trial to gather inspiration for a book she plans to write, but ends up noticing parallels between herself and Colley. The film is a complex meditation on what it means to be a mother and the difficulties of being a Senegalese immigrant in France. Received with massive critical acclaim, Saint Omer finally got a limited theatrical run in January, and if it's playing near you, you should definitely check it out. Of course, there were lots of streaming drops in January, including Amazon Prime's Shotgun Wedding with Jennifer Lopez, and Netflix's The Pale Blue Eye with Christian Bale, as well as theatrical releases like Gerard Butler's soon-to-be classic Plane. What was your favorite movie in January, and what are you looking forward to this month? Let us know on social media at Sneak Peek TV, and now back to the hosts.
Hey Grace, did you ever play The Last of Us?
I did. It's actually one of my favorite games.
Really?
No, I just wanted to sound cool. It always seemed a little too gory for me.
That's okay. I've never played it either, but I have watched HBO Max's new television adaptation of the infamous game and story, and I think the show is a lot more bearable.
Apparently, there's a lot of differences between the video game and the new show. But luckily, we have our very own sneak peeker Nick and Video Game Hour Live's Reese to explain all the differences and their opinions over the new show.
Take it away, guys.
What's up, Sneak Peekers? I'm Nick Flores. There have been lots of video game adaptations recently, but none more popular or acclaimed than The Last of Us, based on the PlayStation game of the same name, which is now almost halfway through its first season. There are always challenges in the process of adaptation, but video games as a medium are notoriously difficult to adapt, and there are plenty of differences between The Last of Us game and show.
Hey everyone, I'm Reese from Video Game Hour Live. Tonight, Nick and I will be listing several ways in which the HBO show differs from the source material, why these changes might have been necessary, and whether or not they were successful.
One change that's been very obvious is a substantial lack of violence. In the game, you have to protect yourself from a myriad of enemies, including the infected, Fedra, hunters, and more. The showrunners, The Last of Us game creator Neil Druckmann and Chernobyl showrunner Craig Mazin, have stated that they hope the comparative lack of violence in the show would increase the overall impact of the violence by not desensitizing the audiences by having the show be too gory. Without the need for emulating the game's third-person shooter experience, the show has more time to spend with its characters and the incredible performances it has, especially Pedro Pascal's as the lead, Joel Miller. Personally, as big of a fan as I am of the gruesome violence in both Last of Us games, I'm extremely happy to see that we're getting more personal moments for Joel and Ellie as opposed to unnecessary combat. I think Pedro and Bella are doing an amazing job embodying their roles so far.
While both the game and the show share the same premise of fungal infection, there are some small changes they made in how the infection is spread. In the game, the infected spread themselves through an airborne route through spores, causing our characters to use gas masks. However, the show so far has the disease transmittable through entering your blood, so you can only catch it from being bitten by an infected or eating some rather fungal bread. That's not to say these zombies have been nerfed though, as the airborne spores have been traded for a hive mind of cordyceps, which can run for miles and connects all infected. I think these changes work a lot better for cinematic adaptations where characters aren't performing through gas masks for long stretches, and the hive mind adds a further interesting and scary dynamic.
I think the most obvious difference storytelling-wise is how world-building information is delivered. In video games, you're typically told side stories through small environmental details, which can expand the world you found yourself in through the collection of all these notes and tapes in any given level. But in games, these are optional, and if you just want to speedrun through guns blazing, no one can stop you. In television, however, you don't get that same agency, so the showrunners create these vignettes that allow the world to flourish, from the eerie 70s talk show prologue about the deadly pandemics, to the first discovery of the mutated cordyceps, and the love story between Bill and Frank and how their relationship braved the apocalypse, all of which is optional information in the game.
Like Nick mentioned, this allows for non-playable characters to be fully realized. More screen time is given to important characters like Tess and Tommy, and side characters we wish we spent more time with like Bill and Frank. But even further, this means giving a breath of life into nameless enemies you'd fight in the games who now have family, friends, and a leader who they follow and support. This characterization of enemies as people just trying to survive in an infected world without good and evil wasn't really prevalent in the first game, although it was in The Last of Us Part 2, which the show surely took inspiration from. I think this change in the show gives a real sense of depth in both the infected world and the people living in it, and that feels uniquely cinematic and enhances the thematic material.
And with that, we'll conclude our segment on what we've seen so far of The Last of Us. While the story is undoubtedly faithful to the original work, the obvious changes enable us to explore how stories can be told in different ways when being adapted from one medium to another. Thank you, Reese, for joining us here at Sneak Peek to talk about the show.
My pleasure. If you want to hear more about The Last of Us and many other games, check out Video Game Hour live on WatchTSTV.com Thursdays at 9 p.m. Now back to our hosts.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Now that we've acknowledged some of the complaints of The Last of Us, I think it's time to acknowledge the biggest complaint of our show. That there's simply not enough meat in it.
I couldn't agree more. Lucky for all of us, though, our next segment is exactly that. More of you. Let's go back to October of 2022 to see Sydney's interview for Women Talking on the Austin Film Festival red carpet.
Women Talking is playing in theaters now and was recently nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. So let's quit stalling and, well, take it away, me.
Hey Sneak Peekers, I'm Sydney Kerr and I'm on the red carpet for Women Talking at the 29th Annual Austin Film Festival. And we're going to be talking to producer Dee Dee Gardner and the director Sarah Poley. What drew you to Women Talking?
Oh, so many things. I think just what's possible inside of debate. What's possible if a conversation happens outside of an echo chamber? What would it look like cinematically if we saw someone change their minds? Just those things I think felt thrilling to us and really cinematic, despite not sounding so. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It asks these foundational questions, and I think also created this amazing portrait of what a truly democratic process could look like. And as Dee Dee said, just the radical act of being in a conversation where you're willing to have your mind changed, or you do have your mind changed.
And this film obviously deals with a lot of relevant and heavy topics. What were some of the preparations that went into that to deal with these situations respectfully?
Well, we had an amazing therapist from the very beginning who was on set and available to the cast and the crew, and I think we made it really clear that it was a space in which anyone at any point could say, hang on a minute, I need a minute, I need to process, I need to think. It was a very collectively held space.
I love that. And what do you want audiences to take away after watching Women Talking?
I mean, I think people come out with very different things, and I really like the way people map their own experiences and their own world onto the film. So I'd never want to be too prescriptive about it. But I guess for me, the sort of call to action of the book and hopefully of the film is, can we start imagining what we want the world to look like, not just what we don't want? So that active imagination of what would a good world that was really truly based on equality look like, and also what would it be like to enter a conversation in which you might have your mind changed, and with what is it like to work with people who you don't agree on every single issue with? Can you still find a common ground to work towards progress? And I think that's something that's getting a little bit lost.
And you are both very influential women in the film industry. So my final question, I was just wondering, do you guys have any advice for young female filmmakers that might be entering the industry?
I think read as much as you can, take in story, watch as much as you can, sort of improve literacy when you can, and read outside what you know. Spend a month reading people who aren't American. Just really push yourself to, I think, just widen the aperture.
What's up, Sneak Peekers? I'm Hunter Gasaway here, and tonight we're going to be doing an M. Night Shyamalan mini bracket. And so without further ado, we're going to dive in. We have Ryan arguing for Knock at the Cabin, and we have Robbie arguing for Old, covering the new M. Night side of the bracket. So we'll start with you, Ryan.
How much time do I get?
60 seconds.
Okay.
Nice little opening argument.
Knock at the Cabin is a fantastic thriller. Just came out this past weekend. And honestly, it's just great. Like, no one is doing it like M. Night Shyamalan. He is one of the last genre directors that is really always pushing the envelope with his story, and that's nowhere more apparent than with Knock at the Cabin. He's taking the frame to such, like, incredible levels. Like, he's really one of the only people who's really using the camera in every frame to tell the story. It's got great performances. Dave Bautista at his very best. Jonathan Groff and Ben Aldridge are incredible, and you've got a great supporting cast as well.
I think we're going to cut you there, and we're going to move over to Robbie's opening argument.
It's a great movie.
Well, what's up, sneak peekers? Here I am today arguing for Old. And now Old, it may not be a good movie, but it is funny. I never felt so hysterical during a movie in a long time since I saw Old, because, the characters in Old, I don't remember their names at all, but they went to the beach and they became old. Like, they got all wrinkly and broken bones and such. And, like, that one woman who, came to, a little pile of goo, that was crazy. They went to the beach and it makes you old.
Wow, compelling argument. Ryan, your response?
Okay, the crazy thing is that Old actually is a good movie, and you're being wild for being like, no, it's not. And also, you should be arguing for your own movie. Also, I have it on personal account that Robbie said in the commercial break that Knock at the Cabin was better. And his Letterboxd reviews, Old is a 1.5, Knock at the Cabin is a 2.5. Knock at the Cabin is great. It's a great thriller. Old is a really good movie. People give it too much hate, but it does have some problems, admittedly. But Knock at the Cabin's great. Everyone should go check it out. It's still in theaters now. Support Shyamalan.
Robbie, your response?
Well, yeah, Knock at the Cabin is, technically better, but in terms of my emotions, my feelings, I laughed so much during Old.
It's not a comedy.
And Knock at the Cabin, I did laugh during Knock at the Cabin a bit, mostly when, the planes were, falling and stuff. That was hilarious.
All right, Robbie, compelling argument, but this one's going to Ryan. Robbie kind of shot himself in the foot. So, all right, bring on my new competitors. Let's go. Dalton, Andrew. Woo. So now we're going to move on to the Old M. Night side of the old, no pun intended, side of the M. Night bracket. And we have Andrew arguing for The Sixth Sense and Dalton arguing for Signs. So we'll start with you, Dalton. 60 seconds.
Okay, this is, it's an unconventional, it's not Unbreakable and it's not The Sixth Sense. Those are the easy ones to root for. You have an easy layup.
Easy sometimes means best.
I have a case to make, but I think Signs is that unique Shyamalan blend of really, really weird, like that speech where Joaquin Phoenix talks about throwing up drunk at a party and he takes it as proof of God. And then there's another part where Mel Gibson, he arrives at the scene of his wife who's died in a car crash, and you genuinely feel bad for him. It's a strange mix of powerful and a little bit cringe.
Compelling. Andrew?
I think Mr. Daltoni Pepperoni said it best himself when he said, I really do have an easy argument here. Sixth Sense is M. Night Shyamalan's movie. It has, and if you don't want to take it from me, look at the critics. IMDb, Letterboxd, Rotten Tomatoes. The Sixth Sense has better reviews in all of those categories than Signs. Additionally, The Sixth Sense has much more cultural and historical significance. Think about how many times the whole scene, the whole quote of "I see dead people" has been mentioned in other famous movies, in comedies, in horrors, in all types of movies. It has great cultural importance. It has a great performance from Bruce Willis, and I forget the name of the kid, but an amazing performance out of this young little white boy. He's great. He's great. And what does Signs have? Mel Gibson? We're really going to be on the Mel Gibson train?
Hold on.
I don't know.
We're going to give it to Dalton for response.
Give this back. First of all, anyone who brings up Rotten Tomatoes in their defense of a movie should be put down. But also, that little kid, his eyes they're unnaturally big and blue. I find it
make fun of little kids.
I find it a little bit unsettling. Honestly, I'd say he's a little scarier than the aliens in Signs. Also, I don't want to be on the Mel Gibson side of things, but his performance in that movie, it was in fact good. And Joaquin Phoenix, you can't forget.
Andrew, your response?
I won't forget Joaquin Phoenix. I think he definitely is the highlight of that film. But let's not forget that the amazing, impeccable Toni Collette is a part of The Sixth Sense, one of the best horror actresses of our generation. And let me also mention, this is from 1999, still holds up.
All right, Andrew. All right,
it's amazing.
All right, you know, Andrew relied too much on the cultural relevance of Sixth Sense. I'm gonna go swing away, Meryl. We're going with Dalton and Signs. So Ryan, get back up here.
I can scam time after time. First, Claire, now Dalton.
What a group of people to be taken over by, though, Claire and...
All right. So we're going to start with Ryan because he's coming back up here. 30 seconds. Tell me why Knock at the Cabin is better than Signs. Go.
Okay, listen, Knock at the Cabin has gotten, and Signs, both have had a lot of criticisms, and I think very unfairly. I think people expect a lot of things from Shyamalan after seeing something like Sixth Sense, and I think Knock at the Cabin and Signs are both movies that are vastly different than what people expect. Knock at the Cabin, I really, really love, though. It's based on a great book, and it's just got such a great supporting cast all the way around. Signs is a good movie, but it is admittedly where people started questioning whether or not M. Night was talented, which I think is stupid. I think he's always been great. Knock at the Cabin is awesome. It's a great movie. Y'all should go see it. Again, please.
See, I'm not going to take cheap shots, and I'm not going to lie. I rated Knock at the Cabin and Signs the same thing, but I just think Signs, you know, it's kind of a classic at this point, and I don't think Knock at the Cabin has been around long enough to stand the test of time. Yeah, and I think overall, both have their powerful moments, but Signs made me feel deeper things.
Sometimes when you know ball, you know ball. And I know Knock at the Cabin, it's a banger. I'm sorry. It's really good.
When you know ball.
When you know ball, you know ball. I'm be real.
Well, there you have it, folks. I think even Dalton knows it. When you know ball, you know ball, and
So true.
So I'm gonna have to give it to Dave Bautista and Ryan in Knock at the Cabin, and we're gonna, give it up, studio audience. Come on, big round of applause. No, we don't like Dave Bautista.
How many of you have seen Knock at the Cabin?
We don't like Rupert Grint. Ron Weasley's in this film.
Signs. Let me hear it for Signs.
I'm an unbreakable man myself, but we'll see you next week, sneak peekers.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone here actually seen Knock at the Cabin and didn't like it? Robbie, you can't raise your hand. You were arguing against me earlier. Why didn't you say anything you didn't like about it? I like Knock at the Cabin.
I'm gonna be real. I have not
Did we
seen
play
The
the
Sixth
credits?
Sense.